In today's class, we are going to understand JavaScript functions. Okay. So, in the previous classes, whenever I was teaching functions in C, that moment in C, Python also, I have briefed how to create the user-defined functions. So I told you that two types of functions: user-defined functions, built-in functions. Built-in functions, they will come with the programming language as a part of library. Okay, so built-in functions are predefined code. A predefined code is written and kept with a name. So whenever we call that name of that function, so that block of code will be executed. Block means some line of statements, 10 lines, 15 lines, 20 lines, even the 2 lines may be called as one block of code. That block of code will be executed. So what is the use of function? So once we write the code, and that code can be used many times. That is called write the code once and use many times. Okay. So now let us see how to what I have defined that what is function. Function is what a block of code, previous written block of code will be executed whenever we call that function. Okay. So JavaScript function, same thing. In JavaScript also, a function is a block of code, so will be executed. So a block of code written to perform a particular task. So whenever we call that function with its name, so that function will be executed not only in JavaScript, even Python, C++, anywhere. So today we will try to understand what is how to create the function in JavaScript. In JavaScript, function will be created with the keyword function. In Python, function will be created with the def keyword. Okay. Here is a function created with the name my function. Here P1, P2 kept inside of the parentheses are called parameters. At the time of I was discussing in Python, that moment I told you that we can pass variables as parameters inside of the function brackets, parentheses. Okay, and whenever we call that function, so we need to pass the values as arguments for the that is what your parameters. Okay, P1, P2. Let us see, function is a keyword in JavaScript to create the function. Here the purpose of the task of the function is to calculate the product of P1 and P2. Okay, a value to be returned as a product. So whatever the code that is to be executed, that will be kept inside of the flower braces. Okay, now this function will be invoked. Invoked means called with the name of my function. Whenever we call that function's name my function, you can change this my function, your name. Okay, there is no any problem. Let us see how the code will be executed first. As I told you that this is the JavaScript code. This JavaScript code will be kept inside of a HTML code under the script start tag, end tag. Let us see. So this is the JavaScript HTML code. Inside of this, where is that JavaScript code? Under the script start tag, script end tag. From here, script to script end tag, that is JavaScript code. From the starting, it is HTML, document type HTML, declaration document HTML, start tag, body start tag. H1 is the header section, header element, that is the header element started with header H1, start tag ended with H1 end tag, P is element, paragraph element. Started with P. P is what? An element. Started with P start tag and end with end P end tag. End tag I told you that forward slash that must be there inside of this smaller than greater than symbol, and that letter P indicates that paragraph element but end tag. So inside of this P start tag and end tag, whatever we write, that is called that element content. Content means text. Now id is a attribute. Okay, that attribute is assigned with a value demo. This value also can be changed. Okay, so inside of script, my function is a function name created with function keyword. The function keyword is compulsory. So here this, if we run this code, first execute the code, then we will change the this is the result. Call a function. The total content is what? Call a function which perform calculation and returns the results. Call a function which performs a calculation and returns the result. This is the content. It will be displayed whenever call that function. Here function name is called my function. How this my function is called? Try to see. A function will be called by id. Here id is equal demo. Okay, understood that? So function is created with function is a keyword. My function, you can change this my function, whatever you keep. My name here, function name is equal to, otherwise it will give the product, so suitable name product is a function. So by this suitable name, it indicates that this function will be used to calculate the product of two variables. Okay, so product. So P1, P2, two variables passed as parameters inside of function. Inside of flower braces, return keyword used P1 product, P1, P2. Here you want to change these variables x, y, z. There is no any problem. As per your use, anything you can keep x, y. Now whenever you have changed them, you need to keep x here. This is what y. Same thing. There is no any problem here. So now if you run this code, why you are not getting result? Because you have changed the function name as product, but let result is a variable. Result is a variable. It is a variable created with let keyword. In JavaScript, I told you that there are 4 ways to create the variables in JavaScript: by let keyword, otherwise var keyword, by constant keyword, other automatically undeclared variables. Here let keyword used to create the variable result. Here my function being invoked, my function is being called, but there is no any my function. But because you have changed the my function name as product, so you call this as my, not product. You need to call this as product. Okay, now inside of that, for these xy parameters, I told you that whenever you have passed some variables as parameters inside a function, whenever you are calling that function, that moment you need to pass the values as a positional arguments. Okay, as arguments, positional arguments. Positional for x value is 4, for y is equal to 3. These are called at the time of you are invoking. Invoking means you are calling that function. What is our function name? Product. What is the task of that function? To multiply two variables. Here variables are x, y, but here they are called parameters. But at the time of calling your product, so whatever the values you will pass, that is called arguments. Document dot get element by id. I told you that this is a JavaScript HTML method used to find HTML element by id. Here id is equal to what? Id just before the script started, id written inside of the paragraph element. Okay, here id is a attribute. Id, that attribute to be, it must be assigned with a value. Okay, as a string. That by that id, by this method get element by id, HTML element will be identified with the id. So id, here you can change this id as whatever you wish. id you simply keep inside id, there is no any problem. But that moment if you change that id, so you need to change this also id. That is very important. So that moment what happen, if you run this code, see, you are getting 12. Understand? Because for x, the positional argument I have passed inside of the function as 4, for y value passed as 3. So 4 into 3, it returns the result of x into y, that is equal to 12. So dot inner html is used here. It will find the HTML content, not element. Element and content is both are different. I told you that many times. JavaScript HTML method get element by id. It is a JavaScript HTML method. By that we will find the HTML element. Understand? HTML element. But by dot inner HTML is a attribute. By that we can find the HTML content. So dot inner HTML is equal to result. Result is what? Result is a variable created by let keyword. So whatever the product will be multiplied, that will be stored in a variable result. So that we are calling the result dot inner HTML. Dot inner HTML is a attribute assigned to this result. So result will be displayed. So result is 12. But what is this called? A function which performs a calculation and returns the, it is the content. The content is written where? Inside of your paragraph. So that paragraph content is being identified by id. id is a attribute that is written inside of the paragraph element with id. You see, anything you can keep id, somewhat z. If you keep z, you change this as that id change here. Okay, there is no any problem. Okay, understood that? Same thing, you will get the answer here. If this content, if you change the total content, so whatever you change the content here, that will be, if you change this content as product result, you change the content, whatever you change here, product result displayed when you call the function. If you write this content will be displayed. Okay, run this. So product result displayed when you call the function. JavaScript functions. This header section here, under the header, this is JavaScript function. Simply if you write this as JS JS function. Understood? If you change these values as 40 and this is as 30 are positional arguments, so you will get as 120 or 100, 40 into 30. Okay, if you change this operator as plus, so you will get 40 plus 30, 70. Product result, now this is not product, so you need to change this as sum of some result displayed. Understood that? Some result displayed. So simply what you need to write the code. If you want to write the total code, it is very simple. First of all, try to understand that how to write the code. This is very simple. First, you that JavaScript code that is to be written inside of the scripts, you need to start the HTML document declaration first with the exclamation mark doc type HTML started with HTML start tag, at the end of it is closed with the HTML end tag, body started with the start tag, end body end with the end tag, body closed. Then after header, whatever the content that is to be displayed under the P. One P is what a content and ID. Okay, ID is a attribute assigned with one demo here, demo anything you say. Because this ID attribute will be used by get element by ID method. Okay, if you will not create this attribute ID, so this ID will be used by your get element by ID. Okay, this is the code. So you see this code totally a function is created with function keyword. Okay, so the same code, if you want to you delete this code, you start to write the total code. It's not a problem. You can write the total code from starting. You select the code, you delete the code. Nothing is, now your board is clear. Your board is totally, it is what, clear. No any code is there. The total board is clear. Now you try to write the code. First I told you that JavaScript code that will be written inside of your scripts. So suppose if you write the script is what, always you need to write the script like what, this is what your script starting. You write this as script, this is called script start tag. This is script. JavaScript will be written inside of the scripts. This is the script start tag, and then come down. So once script start tag started, script end tag to be written, and then this is called script end tag. Script is closed. Now inside of that, whatever the code you write, that will be executed. Inside of script, what I told you, that one function to be executed inside JavaScript function. So in JavaScript I told you that inside of JavaScript function will be that is to be executed. So first create a function. It is JavaScript function. So keyword, that is you need to write the keyword function, and then function name simply I told you that Vasu, otherwise not Vasu. Add two numbers. Function always having brackets in Python and C, already I told you that. And then flower braces. Okay, now within this flower brace, now function created with the function keyword. For that function name I have kept as. Inside of that, here if I pass as a parameters, variables are passing as parameters. I told you that inside of we can pass variables as a parameters. For these parameters we will give values as arguments, positional arguments. Okay, Now function is created, the function name is this one. So inside of this one function, whatever the statements, instructions we will write, they will be executed whenever you call that function. So statement is what? Statement is what? X return is what? A keyword to return a value. So here x and add, our function name is add, so it will add x plus y. Understood that? This is the statement I have written inside of the function. Now this function will be called, that function must be created inside of the script. Okay, script start inside of the script, javascript. So function name is add, function created with function keyword compulsory, xy, these two variables passed as parameters, and inside of that return statement. So this function returns addition of two variables x comma y. Now this function to be called, how this function will be called? Okay, first, what is the function name? You can call this function. Okay, now that this is the function calling style. So if I told you that every JavaScript code that must be written inside of the HTML. So before this you need to declare the HTML document with the exclamation mark. This is the HTML. And doc type, capital letter, everything doc type. This is the doc type. Then HTML. So it indicates that what? So try to understand what happened here. So this is the HTML document declaration for HTML5. Then after you need to start with HTML element. I told you that every HTML element has one start tag, end tag, and then start with body tag. Okay, you need to start with body tag. Okay, here every element, body element, otherwise HTML element, they will have two tags. One is start tag. This is the start tag of body element. Now once HTML element started, that HTML element will be closed. But question is what? Whatever first you will start, that is to be ended at the end. So you have started HTML element with start tag, close with HTML element with okay, this is what your HTML end tag, and then body close with body tag, every tag and tag with what? HTML. Now this is what? Now your structure is started. Now body. Okay, you now what happened? Try to understand. As you told you that whichever the element started first, which element started first? Your HTML element started first. That is to be ended at HTML element started with start tag, and it is to be ended with the end tag HTML. Understood that? Okay, now come down here. Now what happened? See. Now inside of this we need to write a header section. Header section starts with what? H1 is our header element. Okay, H1 is our header element. So that header element that is to be closed. Here we need to write the content. Content is what? for every header section some content. So here write JavaScript JS code, okay, JavaScript code. So then after that is to be header section element, header element to be closed with header end tag. Okay, now JS code will be displayed, and then after one paragraph if you want to keep. So paragraph y, we will keep the ID of get element. HTML JavaScript HTML method, I told you that HTML JavaScript HTML method that will be used here to identify HTML content. The content is what? Content we will write here inside of this. Okay. Inside of the paragraph. Close this one, and here whatever the paragraph ID. So the ID is what? Here ID is equal to, inside of that as a string we need to pass, suppose demo. Generally they are using demo, otherwise ID something, whatever you want to keep. This ID will be, ID is an attribute, this ID will be used by your JavaScript HTML method by get element by ID. So now then after close this, then after close this paragraph element with end tag. Okay, now understood that. Now okay, so your paragraph is one ID element, ID attribute created with value demo. So inside of this, whenever you are calling this function, okay, so let us see how to call the function. The function to be called outside of this, outside of what? Outside of the function. Function is created. Try to understand. So see what happened here. So let us try to understand that. The code, that is I am writing the code as I briefed that. Okay, the function, now I am calling that function, I am invoking that function. Okay, so that moment inside of this, I told you that this element ID is equal demo will be identified by what? Your method, JavaScript HTML method. So document dot, I told you that your document is called HTML document dot get, one method I told you, get element by ID method. Okay, it is a method. Inside of that we need to call this attribute ID with the demo value. So call this as demo. So now what happened, that HTML element will be this HTML element. What is our HTML element? P element. So inside of this ID is an attribute having demo value. So now this attribute will be identified, get element by ID, by ID value is equal, ID is attribute having demo. So dot inner HTML, that is what? Inner HTML is a attribute, inner HTML is equal to, here we need to pass the result given by this function whenever we are calling. So whenever we are calling the function for x and y, two variables passed as parameters. Now I want to pass the values for this xy. So I told you that here we need to pass the values for xy as a positional argument. For x is what? value. Suppose 5 I have passed comma. Okay, now for y I passed 7. So then after what happened, two values passed inside a function as arguments. These are called positional argument. Why positional argument? For x, the position as per this position, x at the first position. So for in function at first position value is 5. That's why it's called a positional argument. Okay, so these two values passed as arguments. So whenever we are calling this function, close this. Okay, return x plus y, you are calling the function dog. Okay, that is work. Okay, now try to understand what happened here. So he under inner html, inner html, here we need to give the result given by this function. This function will return some result as addition. So that result, you create a variable result. Result is equal to, so now what happens, if whatever the function function returns some addition value, that will be stored in this variable result. But while creating a result in JavaScript, you need to declare that variable with the otherwise undeclared, otherwise let keyword, where keyword will be used with older browsers. So here latest keyword where, use that. Declare this result is what? It is a declared variable. Now the function returns the addition of x comma y, that will be returned as a value that will be stored in result variable. Now that is called, result is called your HTML content. Okay, so that content will be given, so you call that variable result here. Understood that? So now everything is okay, you have written the code. Now let us check that if the code is executed. Okay, now otherwise we need to check back that whether we have done any mistake. Now result, so see, JS code kept inside of your header section, that is okay. But id is equal demo, it is displayed. But that id, I told you that id attribute, but get element by id is a method used by it is a method of JavaScript HTML method used to find this HTML content is okay, but we need to get the result. So why that result is why we are not getting. So that moment, see, here where result is equal to function, you terminate this as semicolon, and document dot get element by id at the end of this you terminate with the semicolon. Okay, now let us try to execute this code, whether we are getting the result or not. Still we are not getting. What happened here? Let us see. Still, so here let us we need to keep this little bit of changements. You this element p, okay, here understood that. Now this element id is equal to demo, that is part of inside of your element, that is what paragraph start tag. Okay, now run this code. See, the error is what, whenever you are calling that function, but you are calling that function, our function name is equal to add. The mistake we have done here, we are calling the function with keyword. No, function name is equal to what? Add. So you call that function with the add name. So that's why, let us see now how the code will be executed. Now try to understand that. Whenever you run this code, you are getting the result as 7. Understood that? So why the mistake is that at the time of your this is what dot inner html, in that html we need to write that html as capital letters. Okay, after get element by id, then dot inner html, that is written as capital html. Okay, if you write small html, so it will give error. It will give error. Understood that? So let us see where inner html. So if you write this small letters as html, small letters if you use, so ultimately the result will be what? Inner html, you will get error. You will not get error, but you will get what? Inner html is equal result. So see what happened, you will not get. So that moment you need to change this as capital letters, inner html. Okay, now what happened? Now whenever you run this code, you will get the result JS7. Okay, JS code 7. So if you want to keep somewhat text above this, if you want to keep somewhat text, you can keep like this. You can write, so one more paragraph you can keep here, that is what paragraph. You write paragraph and close this one. Now write the content like this, what value, add some value. You write some. Okay, now close this with okay tag p, paragraph element. Now close this with this one. Now what happened? Try to see. Now this, understood that? Now sum will be displayed just above this 7. Sum is equal, if you want to keep sum of xy, you can write like, otherwise you can keep here is equal to. Okay, now you can see sum is equal to 7. Next word, whether this element id is equal to demo, whether we can keep like this, you check. Okay, no need. If I want to p element started with okay p start tag id is equal to demo, so that moment what happened, let us see if this code is run, so whether it will be executed. So that moment you will get id is equal to demo. This is the error generally you will get. So that moment, if you want to display any string, whatever the content you write inside of this p start tag and end tag, that will be displayed. But if you want, if this element get element by id, now whenever this method is finding the html element, so that element must be kept that by id method, that id must be kept inside of start tag. That is very important, huh? Otherwise you will get error, huh? Same whatever you write, that will be displayed. So that id attribute, this method get element by id method finds this attribute id. Okay, so if you need to write that attribute inside of the start tag of p element. So now if you run, you will get the result. Otherwise no, if you write content inside of start tag end tag as a content will be displayed, but this id to be identified by get element by id method. That is a JavaScript, mostly used JavaScript HTML method used to find the HTML content. So that content will be find by an ID attribute. Here ID, that is to be written inside of the p element start tag. Okay, ID is equal to, you can change this anyone, no issue. You can this ID to be written as anything xyz. Okay, yes, if you write like yes, there is no any problem. But that moment, this once you have passed a value for this id attribute, here that id to be identified with the same demo, not demo, yes here. Okay, understood that. But it is to be given in double quotation marks, either double quotation marks in single quotation marks, no issue. Now whenever you run this, you will get. So if it is in single quotation marks, there is no any problem, I think, because the text to be kept in either single quotation or double quotation, no issue. Yes, so here now run this code, still you are getting, because that is yes, it is a string. Okay, id attribute assigned with a value s. Now here s is being called in single quotation marks. In JavaScript we will identify both the string as in single or double quote, it doesn't matter. Understood? I hope that you better understand all the things whatever I have briefed here. Try to understand. My point is that, so mostly the script code with JavaScript code will be written inside of your what? Script start tag and script end tag. This is very important point. But the total JavaScript code will be written inside of the HTML documentation declaration HTML document. So now the total code will be read by your Java's browsers will read. No need to download any programming language. Don't confuse yourself. To run JavaScript code, HTML and CSS code, the code will be read by your browsers, old to advanced, latest browsers. Okay, latest browsers. So if anybody have the doubt, whatever the code I have written, this is the source code for me, and this source code, how this source code will be executed, who will read, who will behave the translator as a translator. Here, as we have studied in previous programming language, Java, C, C++, Python, whatever we have studied. So there one translator program I have briefed there, that is either the compiler or otherwise the interpreter. Here JavaScript it is an interpreter based program, real time execution. Real time means every line will be read and executed. Okay, so it is interpreter based program. So that interpreter is where in your browser, whatever the browser you are using, like Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, latest browsers, Microsoft Edge is there. So inside of the browser, your translator program is there. That is called the interpreter here. Okay, so this is the code is called, whatever I have written English like code, this is called your source code, and that source code to be converted into your machine language, means machine language binary bits 0, 1, otherwise object code, and that will be done by your interpreter, that is inside of your browser, okay, internet browsers. So today I tried to brief that how to return the functions in JavaScript. As I told, that function is nothing but it is a whenever it is a function is what a block of code will be block means some lines of code, some statements will be execute. Some means any 2 or 3, 10, 100 lines of statements. Some block of code will be executed whenever that function is invoked means called. Okay, function in JavaScript, function will be created with the keyword function. In Python, def keyword will be used. So the function to be created inside of the script, and that is to be called inside of the script by inside of the script. Understood that?